Fort Detrick, Maryland. September 1981. 11 volunteers entered a Department of Defense research facility for what they were told was a study on human performance under extended operational conditions. They were told the study would last 30 days. They were told participation was voluntary. They were not told what the researchers already suspected, that sleep was not simply a biological function, that its absence did not merely degrade performance, that in certain subjects, under certain conditions, something else happened entirely. 9 of the 11 volunteers withdrew from the study before it concluded. 1 completed the full 30 days and was discharged. 1 did not sleep again. Ever. The last observation log entry for that subject is dated March 4, 1983. 19 months after the experiment ended. After that date, there is nothing. No discharge record, no transfer, no death certificate. The file is classified until 2031. In 1980, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency commissioned a study through the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. The stated objective? To determine the maximum operational capacity of military personnel under conditions of total sleep deprivation. To establish, with clinical precision, how long a soldier could function without sleep before becoming a liability rather than an asset. The study was designated Project Nocturne. It does not appear in any public DARPA research index. It was located through a cross-reference in an unrelated 1984 procurement document, a single footnote citing nocturne phase data as the basis for a separate physiological study on stress response. That footnote is the only public reference to the project by name. The lead researcher is identified in documents only by institutional affiliation. Walter Reed Army Institute of Research, Department of Neurological Performance. His name does not appear in any FOIA-released page. Every instance is redacted, in 17 documents, every single one. That level of consistent, targeted redaction does not happen by accident. Someone made a list of every page that contained his name. And someone went through that list. 11 subjects were recruited in the summer of 1981. All male, all active duty military personnel, ages 22 to 31, all in excellent physical condition. All underwent extensive psychological screening before selection. The screening process is described across 4 pages of the released documents. 3 of those pages are fully redacted. The 4th contains 1 surviving paragraph. It reads, "Subjects selected for elevated baseline cortisol tolerance and documented history of reduced sleep requirement. Preference given to candidates reporting naturally occurring sleep duration of 5 hours or less per 24-hour cycle." They were not selecting average soldiers. They were selecting people who already needed less sleep than normal. The study began September 3, 1981. Subjects were kept in individual observation rooms, continuous monitoring, physiological data recorded every 4 hours, psychological evaluation every 48 hours. For the first 10 days, the documents describe results broadly consistent with existing sleep deprivation research. Cognitive degradation. Mild hallucinations beginning around day 4. Irritability. Disorientation. Day 12. Subject 7 withdrew. Acute psychiatric episode. Details redacted. Day 15. Subjects 2, 4, and 9 withdrew simultaneously. The reason given in the log: subjects requested termination citing personal distress. No further detail. Day 19. Subjects 1, 3, 6, and 8 withdrew. The log entry for this date is 2 words: protocol suspended. Then, on the next line, protocol resumed. What happened between those 2 lines is not in any released document. By day 22, only 3 subjects remained: subjects 5, 10, and 11. Subject 5 withdrew on day 26 after what the log describes as a visual and auditory episode of significant duration. He was transferred to a medical facility. His subsequent records are not available under FOIA. His discharge from military service occurred 4 months later. Medical reasons, unspecified. Subject 10 completed the full 30 days. His final evaluation described him as functional, within acceptable parameters, cleared for return to duty. He returned to active service. There is no further mention of him in any document related to Project Nocturne. Subject 11 completed the full 30 days. His final evaluation on day 30 contains one sentence that does not appear in any other subject's record. It reads, "Subject reports no sleep during the observation period. Physiological indicators do not contradict this claim." 30 days, no sleep. Physiological indicators that confirmed it rather than explained it away. The study should have ended there. It did not. The monitoring of Subject 11 continued for 19 months after the conclusion of the formal study period. Observation logs from this period were obtained in a partial FOIA release in 2006. 41 pages were released. An unknown number were withheld. The release contains no index, making it impossible to determine how many pages were removed. What the 41 pages describe is methodical and precise, and, read carefully, deeply unusual. Subject 11 did not sleep. Not once. Not for 19 months. The logs record his vital signs every 6 hours. They record his cognitive test results every 48 hours. They record his caloric intake, his physical activity, his verbal output during structured interviews. His cognitive scores did not degrade. By month 4, they had improved slightly above his baseline. By month 9, they had stabilized at a level the logs describe as anomalously elevated relative to sleep-deprived control populations. He was not a sleep-deprived subject. He was something the researchers did not have a clinical category for. The logs begin to shift in tone around month 11. The entries become shorter, more clinical. The structured interview transcripts, which in earlier months ran to several pages, shrink to single paragraphs. Then, to single sentences. The last full interview transcript in the released documents is from month 14. In it, Subject 11 is asked how he feels. His recorded response, "I feel like I am watching something from a long way away. I don't know what I'm watching. I think I used to know." The interviewer's follow-up question is redacted. Subject 11's response to it is redacted. The rest of the transcript is redacted. The final observation log entry is dated March 4, 1983. It records his vital signs as stable. It records his weight, his blood pressure, his temperature, all within normal range. The entry ends mid-sentence. The sentence reads, "Subject was observed at 0400 hours in the east corridor of..." That is where the document ends. Not at the bottom of a page, in the middle of a line, as if someone stopped typing. There is no subsequent entry, no discharge record, no transfer order, no death certificate in any accessible federal registry under any name or identifier associated with the project. Subject 11 does not officially exist after March 4, 1983. These accounts share a common thread: a transition, a space, a return, or the absence of one. And in every case, a file that was closed before it was finished. In the course of producing this documentary, we were able to locate one individual willing to speak on record. His name is Dr. Alan Mercer, former civilian medical contractor, Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. He worked as a physiological data analyst on the Nocturne project from its inception through the end of the formal study period in October 1981. He left the project before the extended monitoring phase began. He left voluntarily. He has not spoken about the project in 42 years. He agreed to speak under two conditions: that we do not identify the facility beyond what is already in the public record, and that we do not ask him about Subject 11's identity. We agreed to both. What follows is his account, unedited, unabridged, in his own words.
I want to start by saying that I was a data analyst. I processed physiological readouts. I was not in the rooms with the subjects. I want to be precise about the boundaries of what I observed directly and what I observed through numbers on paper. That distinction matters to me. I joined the project in June of 1981. I was 31 years old. I had a PhD in physiological measurement from Johns Hopkins. I was told the project was a performance optimization study. That was the phrase used, performance optimization. I had done that kind of work before. It was standard. The first 10 days, I had no concerns. The data was consistent with known literature on sleep deprivation. Degradation curves I had seen before. Nothing outside established parameters. Around day 12, something changed in Subject 7's data. I flagged it. I wrote a note in the margin of the readout and put it in the review folder. The next morning, the note was gone, and the readout had been replaced with a clean copy. I assumed I had misread something. I didn't ask about it. I should have asked about it. By day 19, the subject pool had reduced significantly, and I was spending most of my time on 3 sets of readouts: 5, 10, and 11. 5 and 10 were deteriorating in expected ways. Elevated cortisol, degraded motor response scores, classic presentation. 11 was not deteriorating. I ran the numbers 4 times because I was certain I had made an error. His cortisol levels were not elevated. His cognitive scores were not falling. His REM data, we were doing continuous EEG monitoring, showed no sleep activity whatsoever. But none of the markers that accompany sleep deprivation were present either. He wasn't sleeping, and his body didn't appear to notice. I brought this to the lead researcher. I told him I thought there was a calibration error in Subject 11's monitoring equipment. He looked at the readouts for a long time. Then he looked at me. And he said, "There is no calibration error." That was all he said. He walked away. I stayed on the project until the formal study period ended, October 1981. At that point, I was told my contract had concluded, and I was thanked for my work. Standard procedure. I packed my files and I left. 2 weeks later, I received a call asking me to return for a follow-up data consultation. I said I was unavailable. I was not unavailable. I had looked at those last readouts one more time before I left, and I had decided that whatever was happening with Subject 11 was something I did not want to be the person who documented. I have thought about that decision many times since. I don't know if it was cowardice. I think at the time, I told myself it was professional judgment, that I lacked the context to interpret what I was seeing responsibly. I'm not sure I believe that anymore. What I believe is this: sleep is not optional. Every organism that has a central nervous system sleeps. It is not a convenience. It is not a habit. It is as fundamental as respiration. When an organism stops sleeping, it dies. That is not a theory. That is a documented biological fact without a single verified exception in the history of medical literature. Subject 11 was an exception. What that means, whether it was something the experiment caused, or something they selected for deliberately, or something else entirely, I cannot tell you. I only know what the numbers showed. And I know that the project continued for 19 months after I left. 19 months of someone sitting in a room not sleeping and being watched by people who had already decided not to tell anyone what they were seeing. I think about him sometimes. I don't know his name. I never did. We only ever used the subject numbers, but I think about him. I hope the file that ends in the middle of a sentence ends that way because someone stopped typing, and not because there was nothing left to type about. I genuinely do not know which one it is. That is the honest answer. That is the only answer I have.
Walter Reed Army Institute of Research has not publicly acknowledged Project Nocturne, a FOIA request filed in 2004 targeting all records related to sleep deprivation research conducted between 1975 and 1990 returned a partial response. 41 pages, as described, and a letter stating that additional records, if they exist, could not be released on national security grounds. If they exist. That phrase, if they exist, is not standard FOIA denial language. Standard language acknowledges the existence of records and declines to release them. The phrase, if they exist, is used when an agency wishes to neither confirm nor deny the existence of the records in question. It is called a GLOMAR response. It was originally developed by the CIA in 1975 to avoid confirming the existence of a classified submarine salvage operation. Walter Reed is a medical research institution. In 2009, a journalist filed a request specifically for the personnel records of civilian contractors employed at Walter Reed between 1980 and 1984 on projects with DARPA funding. The request was denied. The denial cited privacy protections for living individuals. It did not cite national security. That is a different legal exemption. It means the records exist. It means the people in them are alive. Whether the lead researcher is among them is not something the documents answer. Dr. Alan Mercer has not been contacted by any federal agency regarding his participation in this documentary. He noted that he found that unsurprising. He did not elaborate. Sleep deprivation kills. The medical literature on this is unambiguous. Rats deprived of sleep die within 2 to 3 weeks. Humans with fatal familial insomnia, a rare genetic condition that progressively destroys the ability to sleep, do not survive beyond 18 months from onset. Subject 11 did not sleep for at least 19 months. His vital signs, on the last day a record exists, were stable. The DARPA Human Performance Research Authorization documents are available through the Defense Technical Information Center. Partial FOIA Release Reference Number 2006-FOIA-00341. The file that ends in the middle of a sentence is in there. Anyone can read it. Draw your own conclusions.